Hey, Jerry Fetta back with another weekly Wealth Walk. I want to talk to you about how to differentiate between different assets and investments the way that the top 1% of wealth have historically. I didn't even know this when I was a financial advisor. Stay tuned. This is going to be very valuable information. Welcome back to another weekly Wealth Walk. So this is Jerry Fetta. I'm just here doing a walk. We just had some really good rain out here in the desert. You can see a lot of green behind me. But I want to talk to you today about differentiating between various asset classes, investments. Like, there's a lot out there, and I'm sure we can all agree the investing world, it's a bit confusing. Even as a financial advisor for me, a number of years back when I worked with Dave Ramsey and some of the different organizations I was with, it was confusing. I had the licenses, I took the tests, I did all the stuff, and there were things that even at that level I didn't understand. So I want to break down 4 key definitions for you today. I want to break down how to think with them so that you can make better decisions. Money is only as good as the decisions we make with it. So the amount of money we have, that's a representation of our decisions, and our decisions are based on our knowledge. The first thing I want to give you is just the basic asset versus a liability, right? It all starts there. We want to understand, what is an asset? An asset is a thing that is going to either preserve or grow in value, versus a liability, something that's going to go down in value. It doesn't hold its value, it doesn't make us money, it costs us money. So that's a liability. Everything is based on that. So if you think about ingredients, I used to work in a pizza joint when I was in my early 20s. You have different ingredients. You have pepperoni, you have cheese. That's like an asset. Like the ingredient itself, something you can build with or do something with. Let's take a house, for example. A house can be an asset. It can be something that retains its value or maybe even increases in value. Now, an asset doesn't necessarily mean it's an investment. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, is they mix and confuse the asset itself with the investment, right? So in this example, what is an investment? An investment is something that's going to put money in your pocket more than what it costs. So it's going to put money in your pocket. So let's take the house example. Okay, we have a house that's an asset. Doesn't mean it's an investment. We've still got costs. We're living in it. It doesn't necessarily make us money. Usually it probably costs us more than it makes us. But how do we take an asset like a house and turn that into an investment? Now, an investment is something that, we have the house, we're gonna put a tenant in there and they're gonna pay us rent. It's preserving its value, still meeting the definition of an asset, or growing in value, and also it's putting more money in my pocket than it costs me to own. At that point, it becomes an investment. Now, an investment also has to deal with intention. Do I have the intention to make money with the thing? And if I have intention to make money with it, that doubles down as a definition of an investment. Right, so I buy a house, it's an asset. I put a tenant in there with the intention to make money. They start paying me rent, and now all of a sudden I've gone from an asset to an investment. Good. Now, from an investment, we go to something called a security. What is a security? A security is any form of asset or investment that is sold to another person or exchanged to another person with the intention of you making money and them making money. Now, a lot of people don't differentiate between an investment and a security. So if I were to buy the real estate asset, put the family in there, they're paying me money, it's profitable. Now it's an investment. I have the intention to make money, and I am. But now I want to allow someone else to invest in it with me, right? They're gonna put money in the deal. I'm gonna raise, from them a certain amount, and they're gonna buy into the property or buy it with me, or they're gonna buy another one where I'm involved. That then goes into the realm of being a security. We start getting into territory of government regulations and fundraising laws and these different things that require licenses and credentials and stuff. So when you get into securities, you're officially getting into the world of private or public investments, whether that's through a fund that someone privately is running, or a syndication where they're, getting you involved in an investment that they've put together, or even your mutual fund in your retirement account. That's also considered potentially a security. Now, here's the thing with securities. When you start offering securities or investing in securities, you've gone out of the category of just investing in an asset. You've gone out of the category of just having your own investment. You're now doing it with other people, whether you're the one partnering with the guy who runs it or whether you are the guy who runs it. You're in territory now where you either need to have a license or you need to have an exemption, saying that you don't need a license, right? And if those things are missing, you're no longer compliant. And I see this all the time. The reason I bring this up is when we study the top 1% of wealth, we look at the ones that really stuck around a long time. They not only built top 1% wealth, they maintained it, they kept it. They kept their legal points in. They were clean. They weren't going around trying to skirt the law or break the law or find ways to not have to follow the law. If we take the same concept and let's apply it to driving, we all understand you need a driver's license, you need car insurance. Imagine an Uber driver who is like, I want to drive Uber. I want to make money off of doing Uber, but I don't want to have a driver's license or car insurance. Therefore, I'm gonna try and find the gray areas that make me feel like I don't need those things so that I can do the thing I wanna do and make money the way I wanna make it without having to follow the law. You wouldn't feel comfortable with that with an Uber driver if you find out that I'm your Uber driver and I don't have a driver's license and I don't have car insurance. Okay, just like with investing, if you're investing with someone in their fund or their project or whatever it may be, and they're not licensed or they don't have the exemptions that federally tell them they don't need to be licensed, and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna fly under the radar, that's not a good way to go about it. So that's the territory of a security. Now it goes one layer further. You go from a security to what I call a retail financial product. Okay, what is a retail financial product? A retail financial product takes a security or a number of them and bundles them up into a deliverable, consumable product. It does not exist in and of itself. Someone created it in a boardroom. And so this is the pizza in my example, like the real estate, that's the ingredient, that's the pepperoni, right? The final product of the pizza that I'm ready to then give to someone, fully packaged, fully cooked, fully done, that's a retail financial product. So an exchange traded fund would be an example of this, right? So you can buy into an exchange traded fund that owns many different bundles and baskets of real estate. A mutual fund would be another one. Right, you buy into a mutual fund, hundreds and hundreds of holdings and companies and this and that. That would be a retail financial product. You can then get into variable annuities, like an insurance product that's got a bundle of these. These are not investments, guys. These are products. These are financial products. And by and large, the top 1% of wealth don't use them. When you study the truly wealthy in history, they do not buy retail financial products. They're not doing mutual funds. They're not doing exchange traded funds. They're not doing variable annuities. They're not doing these packaged financial products. So these are the four layers. We have an asset as opposed to liability. We have an investment. We have a security. Then we have a retail financial product. And knowing the differences between these is key because there are certain ones that are beneficial in certain ways and there's pros and cons, right? Now, where I wanted to go with this is know what you're getting into at a very basic level. If you're just starting this top 1% wealth building journey, or maybe you've been in it for a while and it's not going according to plan. I meet a lot of those too. Usually where it goes wrong is this area. Assets versus investments versus securities versus retail financial products. This is where I see people get the most confused. This is where I see the people get the most stuck. And this is where I see people, unfortunately, get taken advantage of the most as well. They don't know, hey, that's officially a security. Does this guy have a license or a federal exemption that says he doesn't need one? They don't know to ask that question. Here's a kicker. You could invest in a retail financial product like a mutual fund, thinking you own assets when really you own liabilities. Okay, that's 2008. All of these collateralized debt obligations, these baskets of, I take an investment and I turn it into a security and then I bundle it up into a retail financial product, but the investment was a liability, not an asset, and you don't find out till you lose all your money. So as you can see, it's important to understand this stuff, and this is like basic. This was something that when I took my investment exams, when I was 18, 19 years old, I didn't learn this stuff. Most financial advisors don't learn this stuff, right? But it's so basic. So here's what I want you to do if you're watching this video. Number one, I want you to write down, where do you have your money and which of those locations are assets or liabilities, which of them are investments, which of them are securities, and then which of them are retail financial products. And just doing that little bit of organizing, it's gonna give you so much clarity. It gets rid of confusion. If you've not done that exercise, I recommend you do it. Last thing, before I wrap up here on my wealth walk. Number one, I wanna show you guys the view behind me. Check that out. Look at those clouds, that's amazing, isn't it? Wow. So with that parting view, I wanna offer you a free bonus offer here. So if you go on Amazon and you grab a copy of my book, it's called Blueprint to Financial Freedom by Jerry Fetta. Grab a copy of the book. If you email my team, just contact at jerryfetta.com and send us your receipt. Okay, I have a free 3-hour in-depth training that I wanna give you along with the book. Free of cost, it's a bonus from me, it's a gift, a thank you for the order. Grab the book, send us that, do the training. I promise you it's gonna help you, it's gonna change the way you think about wealth and finances, make you think more like the top 1% of wealth. That's all for today on this weekly wealth walk. See you next time.